Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Saints Network podcast. I'm so tired.
Man up, mate.
It's actually not from watching Southampton for a change either. Welcome to the Saints Network podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this fine Sunday evening. And it has, in fact, been a wonderful Sunday here on the sunny south coast of the UK. In fact, it's been a nicer day here than it probably was yesterday for most of those people that attended St Mary's as Saints welcome Fulham to the stadium. More on that, obviously, later in the show. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash all those magical YouTube buttons. For us, hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Smash subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification icon if you want to be notified every single time we go live or drop a new video, which will probably be coming at some point in the future. Before we dive into this, we do also have a little announcement we'll be talking about for the coming months. If you become a member of the show now, then you are within a chance of winning one of the new season shirts. So basically what did we say? End of August?
I think it's the end of August, yeah.
End of August, we're going to pick someone at random who has held a membership to the channel for 3 months, at which point we'll put you all into a hat, we'll draw you out, old-fashioned style, and one of you individuals will win a football shirt, a new home shirt from the new season, because obviously new season, new shirt, right? So there, become a member. Like Mr. Matt Jones did earlier.
Legend.
He finally figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
It also counts. Mr. The Buckshot 81 has also been in the chat and gifted 10 memberships to the show. Thank you so much, Joe, you wonderful human being. If you have been gifted a membership at the end of next month when it expires, if you choose to continue that membership by yourself for 2 more months, you've paid 2, got 1 free, and you then get an entrance to the giveaway for a home shirt for the 25-26 season. Important. You need to be a member. 3 months to be in with a shot. We will pull all your data from YouTube automatically, and we'll figure that out with a random number generator. It won't actually be a number out of the hat. Oh, anywho,
that's disappointing, isn't it?
No, yeah, sorry. We could do it. We could do it live in bikinis.
Anyway, let's move on.
More entertaining than the football currently.
Yes, that's very true.
Speaking of which, yesterday Southampton Football Club welcomed Fulham, like we said, to St Mary's Stadium for a game that realistically meant nothing to both teams. Fulham are a firm mid-ish table, top of bottom table team, and Saints are obviously firmly relegated already. However, I think that for most Saints fans it means something for us to be able to achieve at least 1 more point, perhaps maybe somewhere 3 more points, because what that does mean then, we will have more points than Derby did in that fateful season where they went down as strictly currently the worst Premier League team of all time. Now, we have beaten one of their records negatively already in the fact that we are the fastest team to ever be relegated. They were relegated a game after we were. We had 7 games in hand, they had 6 games in hand. We have, however, won more games than them that season. We have scored more goals than them that season. So we've got 2 positives, 1 negative. It'd be great if we could get 3 positives and we could beat that points total. And Fulham was possibly a chance to do this. It means nothing for Fulham, right, as a game.
Not strictly. They have an outside chance of European football.
They don't.
Outside, but they don't really know.
They don't. Let's be honest. They don't.
A very slight outside chance.
They
like a small.
No,
little...
they don't.
No, okay.
They don't really do that. Let's be honest. However, it was helped. Their chance of that European slot was probably helped slightly yesterday. I didn't go. I was supposed to go to the game. I ended up hosting an event with work all weekend. So Ash went in my stead, joined Matt in the northern stand to watch them play. Saw the lineup. And actually thought, I like the fact that finally what we're seeing is some familiarity in the lineup.
And continuity.
And consistency.
Yeah.
Absolutely that. So the team was essentially exactly the same. Back 5 the same, middle 4 the same, up front changed. The Loch Ness striker showed up for once. And Ross Stewart replaced Paul Anuachu, who we were told was carrying a knock.
Carrying an ankle injury, yeah.
Yeah, an ankle injury. I'm not sure how. He doesn't use his feet.
It's hard when you got to carry the team every week, mate.
It's hard when you don't use the feet to play football. So, you know. Anyway, that was the only change. We saw Ross Stewart take over from Paul Anuachu. They set up, and they looked, for the first half, I would suggest they looked quite impressive. When I say quite impressive, what I mean is, comparatively to the rest of the season, they looked relatively okay, solid, a bit of attacking, a little bit more aggression.
I think you've done him a bit of a disservice there. Me and Matt spoke about it at half time. I thought we had a bit of aggression about us. We looked very compact and organised at the back. We managed to get the goal. We didn't create anything else other than the goal. But we looked impressive. We were breaking at pace. Everyone knew their position. You could see it in the back 5 when we conceded so many corners. You see it in the back five when someone came out of position, someone covered, and there seemed to be a game plan, and they sort of stuck to the game plan, and we ran and we ran and we ran.
So
and going in at half time, I thought, yeah, that was a good half.
So you're going to say, you're saying like that you think I did him a disservice, but you also then, as far as I'm concerned, countered that very same point when you said we scored a goal. In fact, the only chance we created. I get that people want to see organisation. I do. I get that people want to see aggression and passion. I do. I get that people want to see people filling in for each other and etc. I want all those things as well.
Yeah.
What is the point if you're not creating chances?
I think. Yeah, I can't count that. No, look, you're right. I just think that and this is, I think, the problem that we're going to have now between now towards the end of the season. And we've had it for a few times, especially when we've done this show. Compared to what we have watched, it was a stark improvement.
Agree.
From what we have watched. And even to the point that Fulham had a lot of corners in the first half and they had a lot of crosses into the box.
For reference, I did watch it, by the way. Still wasn't at the stadium.
Watched it. Mm-hmm. So they had a lot of crosses into the box, a lot of corners, and we dealt with them fairly comfortably. There wasn't many chances that I looked at in the first half, especially, that I thought. I mean, Willian had a chance which he threw past the post in the first half, and where we were sitting, I thought, oh my God, that's going in, but it wasn't. They had a few half moments. Jimenez had a couple which he should have done better with, especially at the level that we're playing at. But we went into half time, and to be honest, it was a comfortable 1-0 lead at half time. I generally think it was.
I felt like it could have been either of the teams in the lead at half time, honestly.
It was almost a perfect cliche of a dead rubber. Two teams that were just kind of going at each other, hammer and tong to a degree. Because even though we didn't create much, there was a lot of opportunities where we broke forward quite quickly.
Yep.
We managed to move. We were moving the ball quicker. There was a lot of
that's definitely a thing I noticed.
There was a lot more what I could feel like in the stand and stuff. There was a lot more not passion, but a lot more people working with each other. And at half time they went in, and we came away going, yeah, do you know what? Good half. But
before we get on to the but, the but is coming. The other thing I do want to make a note of: Simon Rusk and Adam Lallana have been in charge now for 3 or 4 games.
3.
At least 3. Still have yet to concede in the first half, and have in fact now scored in the first half. So if you look at that alone, right, stark improvement.
Yes,
absolute stark improvement. We still have yet to concede in the first, because there are games in the past we've conceded in the first 10 minutes and fallen apart immediately.
Yes,
we've still yet to concede in the first half, and then this time around we actually won the first half. And it's important I say the won the first half. I'm assuming if you are a Saints fan watching this either now live or on demand, you're not unaware of the result, because then the second half happened, and I was sat here watching the game, and it got to a point where I said out loud in a room full of people, they're sitting too deep here. They're inviting pressure. There's people in chat who are actual witnesses to this. I said, we're going to lose this 2-1. And what happened is we started to make substitutions. And as has been, I think, far too common this season, we start to make substitutions, and what happens is we start to look weaker.
I think that the teams came out second half, and Marco Silva had made changes. He'd taken off Sander Berge and Andre Pereira and brought on Traore and Lukic, I think. And we looked... It's that good old football cliche again. It's a tale of two halves.
Keep talking,
I'm going to keep talking. I know
you've
got an issue with
the
my phone.
Right?
Yeah, I've seen that. So yeah, we looked a mirror of a complete contrast to ourselves in the first half, and the issue that we had was that we were sitting too deep, but we were doing it after 23 minutes, which didn't help. And then, as everyone said in the chat now, and I can see it, Matt said it. Both Matts have said it. The substitutions almost killed us. I think that everyone expected Ross Stewart to go off after 65 minutes to manage his minutes, especially as he'd come back from injury. Cameron Archer, Cameron Archer is a like-for-like replacement, and without having the future Ballon d'Or winner in the team, we're definitely not going to be able to do anything to manage that. And then we've got the other substitution, Kamaldeen for Dibbling. Camaldine was having a decent enough game, but again went off the ball second half. The one that baffles me more than anything is taking off Matty Fernandez and bringing on James Bree, because when we don't have Ross Stewart up front, and Ross Stewart had a good game, I think that needs to be mentioned. I'm looking at you. They don't even know what I'm looking at. Ross Stewart had a good game, and he was aggressive. He was doing well. He was holding the ball up. He was doing so much. Pause. Talk. Okay, I'll carry on talking. He was holding the ball up, but it just got to the point where I don't really understand the decision to bring on James Bree in the second half, because James Bree he's not a bad player, but we just changed everything. We had a back five that was sitting, and you were right, we were sitting deep, and we were sitting deep, and we were sitting deep, and we kept on sitting deep. And after 23 minutes, we were sitting deep. And Cameron Archer came on and he did a job. He was okay, hit the post, but then just doesn't run. He just doesn't run. And the biggest irony of it, the goal comes, and the defending for the first goal is woeful for that ball to be allowed to go over the top. And Emile Smith-Rowe gets a lucky deflection off of, off of Bednarek, and it loops over. The second goal, ironically, comes after Cameron Archer is chased for about 30 seconds and put himself into knacking himself out. And we allowed overlaps. We allowed them to have the ball wide. We allowed them to put crosses into the box consistently. And that's where you don't put crosses into the box consistently, there's going to be a goal come from somewhere. And there you go. It came in the last minute.
Well, actually, if you look at the number of attempts, sorry, chat, if you're unaware, especially if you're listening on demand, I had to disappear for a quick second because there was apparently an irritating noise. The genius, wonderful nature of live television is now fixed. Can confirm, now fixed.
In 15 minutes, the weather.
Yeah. Did you ever think when we started this 15 episodes ago that at some point you could sit here for 3 minutes and talking without me even being on the screen?
No, but I had
Look at you go!
I had that awkward bit where I was talking to you.
Yeah, look at you go. Yeah, but you still did it, didn't you? Look at you go.
Did
So the thing is, if you look at the statistics for chances created,
yes.
And granted, it's significantly different if you then look at on target, shots on target, but chances created, you look at the difference between the two. And actually, I'm going to jump around the show notes slightly. One of the players, Silva, came out and said Fulham were the only team who wanted to score goals. 26 attempts for Fulham, or whatever it's called, 26.
26 attempts shots on goal. And I think it was they had 5 on target, we had 3.
7 to Saints, 26 to 7. It's a significant difference. Now, if I was Silva, I wouldn't necessarily be gobbing off about 26 chances created where there was 7 on target, whatever it was, 5 on target, because that also shows you're a bit shit. Because 5 on target from 26 is not a great ratio, is it? Let's be honest.
I think it was 5 or 7.
We, however, only had 7 attempts to 7 chances created in general. 7 chances created at home against a mid-table side, I think is poor, if I'm honest. And we talk about the fact that they broke a lot. We talk about the fact that they were a bit more aggressive in the first half. To create 7 chances total and let your opposition create 26, you're probably going to lose that game. 13 corners. And let's remember also that the chance that we did create came from a free kick, which is rare, and a header.
It was a cracking header.
It was a great header.
Cracking header.
But what we're talking about is we're not talking about scoring a goal from attacking play. We're talking about a free kick that was headed in by a centre-back. That's what it was, right? That's the reality of it. They had 13 corners, we had no corners. You don't get corners if you can't hit the byline and try whipping crosses in that get blocked.
Funny part was the commentator saying, Ryan Manning's standing over a free kick with his trusty left foot. Have you watched us all season, mate?
So Silva is one of those individuals where I think, realistically, if you have created 26 and only 5 of them are on target or on goal, you probably should shut up, because that's not a great.
All he did all game was moan.
Well, it's not an impressive statistic, but I think we did get weaker when those substitutions came on. I think that Cam Archer did do some running, granted, but we just every time we bring in a like for like substitution, we look weaker. Dibbling, I don't like to say this about him, but I think he looks lazy at the moment. I think he looks disinterested.
I don't think he looks disinterested. I think he was the wrong. I honestly, and I'm going to go, he's a good player, but I generally think he was the wrong person to bring on in the game yesterday. I think that he was not the right person for that situation. I think he came on and wanted to play his normal game.
Yeah, well,
he's the one that gave the ball away for the second goal. And I said it to you yesterday when we came back here, that Marco Silva was stood looking at the fourth official board when the number went up for Matty Fernandez. And he immediately then stopped and he spoke to Calvin Bassey at the back and he was pointing where he wanted the back line to be. And he moved his hand about 10 yards in front of him and told Calvin Bassey, I want you to be here. So the minute Fernandez went off, he already knew that they could take an extra 3 steps, 10, 4, 5 steps forward and play football in our half.
I also think that what also happens when both teams have substitutions, and I've witnessed this for most of the season as well, and I found this quite interesting. It was really bad under Juric for reasons, and that main reason was the fact that he was running a man-to-man marking system.
Yes.
We still seem to be having hiccups with it now, where the opposition make a change, a individual comes off, a new individual comes on, and we seem to struggle to pick that man up. And if you look at their first goal, the substitution comes on, and he makes a run, and no one's really tracking him. It looks like THB is slightly out of position. He's pulled out to the wing.
Yes.
That's because Kyle Walker-Peters has pushed a bit forward. When the goal goes in, you can have a look at Kyle Walker-Peters gesturing, but he's a bit further up the pitch. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. I'd like to think that the 5 at the back means that the wing-back can push forward and the centre-back covers across to keep you 4 at the back. That's how I think it should work in theory. But then that gap opens up between THB and Stevens, and the gap is filled instantly by him. He is him, the guy who came on for Fulham, who scored the...
Oh, Emil Smith-Rowe, sorry.
Thank you, Smith-Rowe, that's the word I'm looking for. Smith-Rowe comes in, he breaks through that gap. Fernandez is kind of tracking him, but not really. And I don't like to criticise Fernandez because I think he's been our best player this season. But he kind of doesn't really track him. And it is unfortunate as well because if you watch it in slow motion, as he takes a shot, Bednarak puts his foot in, probably without Bednarak's foot, straight at Rambo, with Bednarak's foot, loops over him and goes in the back of the net. There's a degree of unfortunate for him sticking his foot in the way. But if you don't let that man run in that space and just be left all on his own in the first instance, it never happens it never happens at all anyway.
It's worth mentioning that before they got their goal, Cam Archer had hit the post from a very tight angle, and Kyle Walker-Peters had a chance.
I'll talk about that Cam Archer chance in a moment. Actually, I got something to say about that.
Kyle Walker-Peters had a chance, but the guy that sits behind you, us, Ian. Hello, if you're watching.
Hello, Ian.
Had said it, and he was right. The Fulham team, it was men against boys. They looked so much more physical, so much faster, so much stronger. And we first half we were matching them and we were fighting, and it seemed there. But then second half we just went completely off the ball.
Effort is. I don't even know if I nowadays would put it down to fitness. I would put it down to effort and attitude. I think more than fitness. Because as professional footballers being paid what they're being paid, I expect them to be fit enough to run for 90 minutes. It's effort and attitude. And there's a moment, that chance that you talk, Cam Archer comes in at a tight angle, hits the post, hits the woodwork. It's not wood anymore, but you know what I mean, right? Hits the woodwork. As he's charging in on goal, before he takes his strike, Kamaldeen is powering into the box for, I guess, a low cross or some sort of rebound, right? Yeah. Cool. Good. He should be doing that. 100% correct. Should be doing that, right?
Yep.
At which point... He obviously, Cam Archer obviously hits the woodwork, ball comes firing out, Kamaldeen ends up in the goal, in the net. At that point, as the ball pings out and is still essentially around the edge of their 18-yard box, he is obviously wildly offside and should be doing what he probably can do to get back onside. But his attitude stinks. And I know there are some people out there that are Sulemana fans. And I know we happen to see a flash in the pan from Sulemana when the transfer window is open and he might go get himself more wages. But he has gone back to being probably, mostly, a waste of space as far as I'm concerned. And people say he often looks like our most attacking player. And there's a couple of occasions yesterday where he gets the ball down and he's running at the fullback and he often is quicker than the fullback that he's taken on. He still has no end product. And almost... You'll remember this name. Almost a Fabrice Fernandez.
Oh, God.
Skinned the bloke 8 times. No cross.
But the thing is, in the first half, there's a few instances where he did what he did at United. He wanted to take on, I can't remember the name of their right back, an absolute toss pot yesterday. But he wanted to take him on. He wanted to really drive at him. And then again, it got in the second half and he stopped. Dibbling came on, and people were saying he was awful yesterday. He tried. He generally wanted to try. I know he gave the ball away for the second goal, but he wanted to try. I just think that what you need to do in that situation, if you're going to shore things up, is bring on someone like Joe Aribo, who's going to be potentially not afraid of putting his foot in.
It's interesting that Ruskin and Lallana don't seem to rate Aribo. If we go back to that incident without Cam Archer's day,
go on.
The ball pings back out, and what happens eventually is the ball comes firing in again, and Kamaldeen can't go anywhere near it. He kind of runs at it and goes, actually, I walked out the net. I'm wildly offside.
It's interesting that you said that, because when you then watch the Kyle Walker-Peters chance, Leno's not, is it Burnt? Yeah, Burnt Leno into a goal. Fulham saves it and it gets deflected out, and he's again in an offside position, and he's almost pretending to try and shadow the ball out for a corner, but you can't play it because he's offside.
Yeah, but the second he'd walked out of that goal net, he's back on the field of play. The second that ball gets played in again and he chases towards it, I'm like, are you dumb? You're a professional footballer and a forward.
Yeah.
You don't understand the rules of offside. You're offside at this point. You can't go anywhere near it. So, and there's a clip that's been doing the rounds on, I've seen it on Twitter. This was, I think, yesterday and today. May have been Friday as well. If you've seen this clip, but it talks about Burnley's defending in the Championship. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay. It's been shared by a few people. I can't remember the original source. I don't know who they're playing against either, but it's on Twitter. And there's a player for Burnley's opposition who's broken down the left-hand side. He's about halfway between the halfway line and their 18-yard box. There's one player standing him up at the moment for Burnley. And then you see 6 players come in from the right-hand screen and just swamp. And they're all, I mean, they are making fast. And the effort and the demonic possession that seems to happen for them all to go, nope, not happening. That is the kind of effort that you want to, if you can't match teams in this league for skill, which, let's face it, for the most part, Southampton aren't matching most teams in the Premier League for skill. If you can't match them for skill, you can outdo them with effort and passion and drive and determination. And I think that we were better in the first half. But when you see Camel Dean just kind of ambling out, it's not the effort you want to see. Especially, we're not even talking 80 minutes here. We're talking the first half of the game.
But when you're talking the effort, obviously, like we said, we lost a game in the last minute. For Diblin lost the ball, Kyle Walker-Peters has lost his man, and another cross has gone into the box and they've scored from it. And then we eventually decided that we're going to make an effort to get the ball back. We go down the other end and we force a couple of long throws. Now, one thing that I do love is that we've gone kind of old school with putting the long forward throws into the box. And if I shoot back 7 days ago and we're sat here talking, we're talking about Leslie Ukachukwu getting forward into the box and smacking one in from 12 yards out and celebrating it. So we get a long throw, and Taylor Harwood-Bellis says, "Slow down, mate. Stop. We want to put a long ball into the box." And Ryan Manning casually jogs us across, and then you get the ball, and I'm thinking, right, you want to pack the box out, don't you? You want to put your biggest players on. Who's our biggest player?
At that point, it would be Ukachukwu or a centre back.
Leslie Ukachukwu is our biggest player. So 3 centre backs go forward. Kyle Walker-Peters goes into the box. Leslie Ukachukwu, I can't even say it, Ukachukwu, our saviour from last week, he's still on the centre circle. He's our last line of defence.
Yeah.
What on earth? What's going on?
I mean, that's possibly a tactical error. I actually think, because I know Mr. Stevens organised the play there, I actually think Jack Stevens had, for the most part, a good game.
I thought he was superb.
I thought he was really good last week, and it's more. I think yesterday's performance from Jack Stevens was more of a captain's performance than we've seen for most of the season. If I'm honest, I think he did all right.
I also thought Jan Bednarek had a very good game yesterday as well.
Yeah, I didn't think he had a bad game at all, actually. I thought Taylor Harwood-Bellis had a shocker.
I think he had a shocking second half. I think he was very good first.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll concede. I'll give you that one. We often remember the last act. I think his second half was quite poor.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I think Kyle Walker-Peters didn't have a great game. I think Manning didn't have a great game. Manning looked knackered. I don't know if you said this when I was fixing the microphones. Manning looked knackered at the end and we didn't take him off.
It's one, I didn't say it, but it's one decision that always baffles me, because the last few games it's been been an expected change. And I know that, if you're Marco Silva, you know that we're going to take Ross Stewart off after an hour, 65 minutes. So you can kind of plan for that.
Alfie from the Daily Echo on Twitter did state, however, that Ross Stewart's 65 minutes is the longest time he spent on the pitch in a Saints shirt since we signed him in 2023.
It is, and you could clearly see, though, you can see yesterday what he's about, and you just know that if we keep hold of him, assuming we will do, he will get us goals in the Championship next year, and he will be a star man for us next year. But you knew he was going to go off. You also then expected the Manning for Wellington change, and it never came. And Wellington was ready at one point, and it still never came. We only made 3 subs. We were on our arse, and we just didn't do. It's the theme of the season. Russell Martin subs, Juric subs, Russ subs now for yesterday, and whether it's a learning curve for him, I don't know. But I think he's guilty of making the wrong sub. Taking off Matty Fernandez was just.
It is a bad decision.
Matty Fernandez, yes, he was knackered, but you've taken off the one player that can make the ball stick,
and was battling
And there was an incident yesterday where he had the ball, he then got tackled, he was on the deck, and he still managed to come away with the ball from about 4 of them. But you've taken him off, and then you put Kyle Walker-Peters into that position. So you've taken off someone who's, I know Matty Fernandez isn't, but he's quite strong on the ball. You put Kyle Walker-Peters in a more advanced position, and yet he's good at running down the wing, etc. I don't know. I just think that there's a lot that was essentially potentially wrong with where the game was and where the game went yesterday. And I think that if he will learn a lot from that in turn for next week. But it's just, again, we're sat here talking about the same thing, aren't we? We can copy and paste from a lot of games. There's another 92nd minute goal conceded. It's another lot of huff and puff for no reason. And yesterday, credit to the fans yesterday. The fans were superb, really got into the team, behind the team. There was a lot of incidents where they were trying to rouse the team, etc. And I just think that the attitude of the second half, we were beaten by the better team, and you put it in the show title. We were beaten by a mediocre Fulham team. Because let's be honest, they weren't fantastic. They were better than us.
Well, this is the concern.
Hard.
This is the concern. For me, Fulham were mediocre yesterday. They were mediocre. They didn't look good, and I laughed at Silver's comments because they were poor.
I think so. Yeah.
Now creating 26 chances shows they were trying to score. 5 on target or 5 shots on goal shows that they were poor. They didn't look good. They didn't look impressive. They didn't. Willian had sparks of looking impressive, but as a collective, didn't look that impressive. And they beat us.
Apart from the goals, Ramsdale had one save to make and hit the post.
Yeah, they didn't look impressive. They were a mediocre team. And I wanted to put this in the title because I wanted to throw a curveball at you now that's not in the show notes.
Oh, brilliant. Here we go.
Right? Based on, you've been to a few more games more recently. Looking at things like yesterday's performance. Oh, by the way, one thing I do want to shout out before I throw this at you is I do think that when we talk substitutions and we're criticising the substitutions and like for like we're not strong enough and we are weak, I do think, however, I am liking the fact that Rusk is typically leaving the two in the midfield to play together as a partnership.
Agreed.
I like the Ugochukwu-Downs partnership at the moment, and I think that perhaps Downs' peak is championship level. However, I like the fact that he's leaving them because that disruption caused us chaos all season. Anyway, thinking about yesterday's performance, we were beaten by a mediocre Fulham team. Fulham aren't impressive, let's be honest. Sorry, Fulham fans, you're not impressive in the Premier League. You're solid, not impressive.
Inconsistent.
Yes. Does this give you cause for concern at championship level? I think there's Saints fans out there who, despite the season that we've had, are assuming that we will come straight back up again.
If I see one more post that says HMS Pistol League, I'm going to lose my nerve. Do I get worried about the championship next season? I'm not worried in it to the sense that I think we're going to be more competitive. I am worried in it in the sense that I think when we went down last time, Sports Republic did the right thing. They brought Russell Martin in charge. It was a big appointment. I think this appointment that we do in the summer. I think it's going to be the biggest decision they make in charge of the football club. And
do you think it makes or breaks Sports Republic?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. That serious?
Yeah. And okay. I don't think it's going to be average. I think it'll either be a good appointment, and I'm going to be honest with you now. I'll be happy with. I don't think we're going to be fighting at the top two. We're going to talk about how the championship is shaping up later. You look at where Luton are and how they fought. They got a very lucky late win against Coventry yesterday, so they potentially might stay up. We could potentially do that. Ipswich could do that. Leicester could do that. And again, we'll talk about them later. I'm concerned going into the championship anyway, purely and simply through player attention. And what we're going to look for. And there's a lot of uncertainty. There's people out there saying we should keep Adam Armstrong. There's people out there saying we shouldn't. There's people out there saying, oh, we're going to sign Leslie Ugochukwu. Get real, that's not for happen. There's things that we're going to talk about in a minute that we'll go on to where I just think... And then obviously we've got the more done on, and I'm terrified that game 5 of the season is going to be Fratton Park away and we're not going to have our gear in order and we're going to get battered.
So we've spent half an hour talking about the past. Let's talk about the future. Next season, all right, we are going to have a derby day. It has been confirmed that the Skates will be staying up. I'm glad there's a derby day. I'm glad there's a proper South Coast derby back. I am glad there's a proper South Coast derby back.
We played Bournemouth this year.
I'm glad there's a proper South Coast derby back. I am. I know, we obviously hate the Skates because we're Saints fans. I'm glad they're staying in the league. I'm glad there's a South Coast derby back because I want there to be a South Coast derby because I think that is... I think every team every team really wants to have their derby day each season, don't they?
Yeah,
and they
they
want
do.
to have the bragging rights, and they want to be the team that wins both derby days, both home and away. Everybody wants that. So congratulations to the Skates. I'm glad you stayed up because I want there to be a derby day next season. I think that's good, right? However, if we talk about next season, we have just spoke about Sports Republic appointment. We're going to be going into the season with a new permanent manager. And I say this because Rusk is currently in charge. He is in charge till the end of the season. He is not currently the permanent manager. There is, however, odds on him to be the permanent manager at the bookies. There's also odds on a lot of other people. Now, the polls in YouTube, which is currently live, if you haven't already, please vote in the poll. The polls in YouTube only allow us to have 4 options, and I've put the 4 that I could found sort of highest rated options in there. So we've got, if I jump across to the poll right now on YouTube, he says, come on. Oh, wait, let me look at it. That's really helpful, isn't it? We've got Danny Roll, Gary O'Neill, Will Steele, and someone else. Danny Roll's winning at 44%. We've got Will Steele at 15%, Gary O'Neill at 7%, and then someone else at 33%. If you voted 33% and you're in chat right now, can you let me know just with the name of the individual who it is that you would like to see in charge next season of the club? Because this is more of a who you'd like to see than who you think it will be. So, in the press this last week, Danny Roll has apparently set out his expectations to the Sheffield Wednesday ownership.
Yes.
What we don't know is what those expectations are. So there are rumours out there that from the Sheffield Wednesday fans that the expectations are, I need this financial backing or I'm not sticking around.
Yeah.
There's also rumours that are, I'm not sticking around, I'm off. What's your sense feeling?
I've said it since the start with Danny Roll. We need to wait until so their season ends next week, and we will know more once the season has ended. Because once the season's ended, there's no point in him sticking around if he's not going to stay around. So it wouldn't surprise me if the season ends next year, or next year. Crikey, the season will end next year. The season ends next week, and he steps away. I have said there's a lot of football to be played. For Sheffield Wednesday, there's one game left and there's nothing to play for. So it wouldn't surprise me if they get a result. I don't even know where they are. I haven't even looked. They play the game, they go, Danny Roll gets on his bike.
Well, okay, I'm still very convinced at the moment that it will be Danny Roll, but things happen. You know, we've still got this potential move of Xabi Alonso to Real Madrid, and they got beat by Barca, didn't they, yesterday? In El Clasico.
Yeah.
So Ancelotti's position is even less secure now, because losing that.
It's widely reported that he's very close to taking the Brazilian national job.
Yeah, and if that happens, Xabi Alonso might go to Real Madrid. If Xabi Alonso goes to Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund becomes available. If Borussia Dortmund comes available, a German team in the Champions League, Danny Roll might go.
Leverkusen.
Sorry, Bayern Leverkusen. You're right, yeah. Thank you. However, you can see how that
it's like the managerial merry-go-round, isn't it?
Dominoes happens, essentially, right?
I like pizza.
So Liam Rossignol, who is also one of the bookies' favourites, there's a couple that are the favourites. He's not like favourite, but one of the favourites. He's just signed a contract extension.
At Strasbourg, yes.
So that's got to be either Strasbourg protecting their interests, thinking he might go, but we're going to get some money for him, or that's him staying where he is.
He's already said categorically that he's not really interested in leaving. So I think we can write off Liam Rossignol.
Okay, good. We then have Will Steele, who was on Monday Night Football this last week. And I saw some stuff out there. People like Football Martin, who's got his own podcast. You should check out his stuff. He did a bit about how, on Twitter that I was reading about how he was very impressive and how he analyses and breaks down the games. He's currently at Lens.
Yes.
He's currently at Lens, isn't he?
Yes.
Can you see him leaving Lens for Southampton Football Club in the Championship? Can you?
Yeah, I can. I don't think it will happen. I think that he is someone he was heavily touted for the Sunderland job a couple of years back and got very close. He was very impressive when he was on Monday Night Football. Speaks a good game, as they all do. But then, Russell Martin was very impressive. Gary O'Neill was very impressive. I think he came across very well. He set out the style of play, sort of a similar Notts Forest type style. I don't think he's realistically. I know he's odd moved on the odds. I don't necessarily think he could be one that the board are looking at.
He's looking at the moment like the second favourite behind Danny Roll. That's how much he's moved on the odds.
It's going to move a lot more in the next few weeks.
Okay. We also have. I don't think this is going to go away until we appoint a new manager, unfortunately. I don't want to give it too much airtime because I am of the opinion that it flat won't happen. But I'm going to ask you anyway. And you pulled the quote from an article written by a questionable source.
Yes.
That Southampton were considering the return of Russell Martin
So
for the next season.
I will give the plaudits to this to Cameron, who's in our chat now, who put it in our Discord, and he sent it through. It's not going to go away. It's the same as the Ralph chat isn't going to go away at the moment. There's a lot potentially, like I said, there's a lot of football potentially still to be played in certain
I'm not
leagues.
going to ask you whether you want to see him come back to the club, because you answered this last week and you said no. It's done.
Yeah.
We should forget about
Move
it.
on.
However, I'm going to ask you a different question so it stays relevant, it stays new. If Saints appointed Russell Martin next season, how would you feel about it?
I would be disappointed.
Would you? Would you think that's a bad appointment from Spurs?
Yes.
Because on the one hand, I think that he's learned from the Premier League. I do. I think that his interview with Gary Lineker was very good on the This Is Football. Is that what it is?
Whatever it is,
podcast on YouTube. I thought it was very good. And I think that he has proven he can take a team up, albeit I think he did it the hard way. And we probably should have been looking at automatic promotion if we're honest. I think he's proven he can bring a team up. And it's possible that he can come back into the club with what he's learned and go, we need to clear out and we need to set up differently. On the flip side, I think that his interview showed that he is too stubborn about his style of play.
I also don't want to go back to that style of football.
No, I think it has shown that he's too stubborn. I think what he showed in that interview was, I am not prepared to give up my style. I will make my style work.
Look, I'm a firm believer in, especially in football, there's a lot of talk all the time. Obviously, we've had it for years, haven't we? Danny Ing, James Ward-Prowse, etc., etc.
Ralph Hasenhüttl right now as well.
Yeah, I know. Football is a game that you do get those sort of, I can't even think of the word that I'm trying to think of.
A comeback story.
Yeah, you get attached to people, don't you? And you love the idea of them coming back, but you need to move on.
Do you think that the going slightly left of field here? Do you think the success of David Moyes at Everton is fueling this a little bit?
No, because it's always been there. I think Moyes has done a good job. But you have to think about the gap that it's been in. Let's say it's not going to happen, but Russell Martin does come back in. What was the point then in getting rid of him? Why have we spent millions to get rid of him? To then go through Europe, to then go through Rusk, to then bring him back in. What's the point?
I mean, you could argue that boards also make mistakes, as we've seen, and perhaps they've gone, we made a mistake here, we should have stuck with him, because we did give him a contract extension. So I agree, what's the point? And it would be a monumental waste of millions of pounds, but people make mistakes and go, we made a rash and bad decision.
Don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening either. But I do sometimes look at things like Moyes at Everton, and I do wonder whether that is fueling this a little bit, because it's not just Russell Martin; it is also Ralph Hasenhüttl who they're talking about him coming back to.
Yeah.
I also look at, if I'm honest, continuing to talk about the Championship, I look at Leeds, who've been promoted under
Daniel Farker.
Thank you. And now the press is talking about him losing his job.
Yeah.
He's just got Leeds promoted, and it's looking like the press are saying that the management team, the ownership team, are suggesting that he might not be robust enough for the Premier League. Thanks for getting us up. You're off.
And he's another one that potentially has been mentioned. Look, I just think that I'll be interested to see what chat thinks about the managerial decision. Obviously, we've had the poll. Guys, put your names in there. Obviously, if you want us to definitely get to them, then just whack them on a super chat and we'll get on them at the end. I don't like the idea of Russell Martin coming back. Like you said, I think that the naivety there is bad. I think that there's going to be a lot of managerial merry-go-round this year.
Yeah.
And Danny Role is going to be one who, obviously, as you said before we went on air, he is the firm favourite. I would almost bet me house on him being here next year, but football's a funny old game. And, we'll see what happens. And do you know what? I said this at the same time to Matt yesterday, we were in the stands. Should Russ be given an opportunity? If he wins a couple of games between now and the end of the season, he needs to be in the conversation, as far as I'm concerned. He would need to be at least in the conversation for the managerial role. Having said that, we're realistically probably looking at Leicester being the only game that's realistically getting points from.
I think the only way in which I think that Russ becomes a consideration for the actual full position as well is if we're confident that someone like Johannes Spors has really got control of things like transfers, contracts.
I just think it'd be a bad appointment. I've just seen Cameron's comment as well. I don't want Gary O'Neill.
I don't want Gary O'Neill.
Mainly because of his Pompey.
But he has got short odds right now, Cameron, I'm afraid. But I don't want Gary O'Neill either.
Danny Role is, I think, the one that everyone's going toward, and I think we've kind of accepted. But then there's also other candidates that are coming up that are completely left field.
Yeah.
So Eric Ramsey, who is the manager of Minnesota FC over in the States, has come out of absolutely nowhere. And according to sources that we've seen over social media today, he's had an interview for the vacant management position with a view to the future. Now, he used to be on the coaching staff at Manchester United. He plays a very similar style to almost a Notts Forest. The Notts Forest sort of hit him on the counter-attack. But I'm all for giving people a chance. But if you're Sports Republic and you need to get this next appointment spot on, the one thing you do not do is go and find someone that no one has any idea about. Unless you are convinced.
It's a huge gamble.
Massive gamble.
And it is possible that they are looking at the potential that Roll does end up at Dortmund or...
They've got to prepare for that.
Of course they have. Cam says in chat, it's such a Southampton thing to be linked with someone so much and it not happen. and I agree. Danny Roll, I think, before some of the jostling that's happened at clubs like Real Madrid to then have that knock-on effect in Germany, to then turn his eyes to Germany a little bit. Honestly, I think that Southampton would have gone, before all this, they'd have gone dead cert. It's my genuine opinion at the moment. Based on what we've seen, what we've read, what we've heard, watching Danny Rowe in the press, I would go as far as to say that I think 2 to 3 months ago, he's dead cert coming to the South Coast. But you also have to remember that he's going to be talking to his current ownership team about his role at Sheffield Wednesday. He would be stupid not to have his agents talking to the clubs over in Germany. He's going to be, and it's not about, people say it's about managing the Premier League. And I do think that's a huge part of where potentially he's going to go in the future, but he'll be looking at more than just that. What budget do I have available to me? What sort of players can we go and get? How much are we going to clear out the current squad? How much work do I have to do to turn this around? What's the blah, 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 blah.
There's also going to be other jobs available in England as well.
Yeah, well, of course there is. Absolutely. So I think that Saints wanting him to be their manager is the worst kept secret in football. I think Saints having had the conversation with him about it is also the worst kept secret in football. Him coming here is not a dead cert. And I think that we have to be, as a club and as fans of the club, we have to be open to it might be someone else. And if that someone else isn't Danny Roll, we should not yet throw our toys out the pram. If, however, that someone else is not Danny Roll and it is a, what's his name that you just called him?
Eric Ramsey.
Thank you, and Eric Ramsey. I think that might be a time to throw toys out pram.
I would agree to a point, however, because we are what we are, we'll still be in the stand next year and supporting him, but it'll just be one of those ones we just have to wait.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting.
What happens. So.
Okay, so there was also, speaking of Ian, who you mentioned earlier, who sits behind me at St Mary's normally, he put you onto an interview that Kyle Walker-Peters did.
He did, yeah. I hadn't read it, and I haven't read all of it, I will admit, to the interview that was done with the Daily Echo. I think it was in midweek. I think it was Alfie or with George. I can't remember which one he did it with. It might have been both of them. It's just a comment that he came out, and obviously there's a lot of talk around Kyle Walker-Peters. Luke said before we went live about him being linked with places like potentially Liverpool.
Yeah.
And he came out with a few quotes in the thing. The one that I've taken is that he walked into training on his first day and saw Will Smallbone training and thought that he was absolutely out of this world. And it's just a bit of an enigma, because you wonder with someone like Will Smallbone, who when he first broke through all those years ago, he was, he lost air since then, to be fair. You just wonder what the future holds for players like him. Clearly not able to cut it at this level, consistently at this level. Clearly not potentially most likely going to be a squad player next year.
I think at this level he can be a good ball player. I think when he's on the ball, he's okay. Genuinely, even in the Premier League. I've seen him play some wonderful passes.
He's
a
good
defensive
defensive side of things as well.
The second he's off the ball, that's when I think he falls apart. His positioning, his defending, I think he falls apart. When you're looking at someone in training and suggesting that they're incredible, you're probably looking at them on the ball, right? And seeing what they can do with the football. So it's not a massive surprise. Kyle Walker-Peters, however, interesting that he did an interview. I still don't think we'll have him at St Mary's next season. I think he's gone.
No.
That being said, two players who you're probably likely to see at St Mary's next season, Ronnie Edwards and Shay Charles. This is important. Shay Charles and Ronnie Edwards are both Saints players.
Yeah.
Both on loan.
Yeah.
Shay Charles at Sheffield Wednesday, Ronnie Edwards at Queen's Park Rangers.
Yep.
I don't know if this is good or embarrassing for the respective clubs, but Shay Charles has won Sheffield Wednesday's Player of the Season award.
Yep.
And Ronnie Edwards has run QPR's Young Player of the Year award.
Despite only getting on loan in January.
Who only, I was about to say that, who only went in January.
Yeah.
So he's been there for 3 months and won their Young Player of the Year awards.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing for Queen's Park Rangers. Positive for Saints though, right?
Oh, I think so. We discussed it yesterday. You know, you're looking at the back line. Taylor Harvey-Bellis is going to leave. We know that. Jan Badnarak, if he decides to go, you know, again, we can move on from that potentially.
By the way, I hate to say this, I'm not sad about Taylor Harvey-Bellis going. I think since he's had his England call up, he's been awful.
Oh, his head's been elsewhere completely. He's had his father-in-law talking in his ear, and he's been thinking about bigger and better things.
He changed his agent. If you're changing your agent, why? Because you don't want to stay here.
Yeah, exactly that. So, you know, you're looking at a back three. If not that we're going to go, hopefully don't play a back five to hate a back five, but you're looking at least 3 defenders of being Jack Stevens, Ronnie Edwards, and Nathan Wood. And then potentially you're looking at Kai Sander, who's in the under-21s at the moment. You've actually got four centre-backs there already.
What about James Bree?
James Bree is a fullback by trade.
But has also played a significant amount of right centre-back under Ivan Juric.
He could be someone who covers that 5th centre-back position, if and when. But then we might also be stuck with Joe Reba next year, you know.
But James Bree, I actually feel like James Bree could replace Kyle Walker-Peters.
He's a different type of player. He could replace him, and you would naturally look at the squad and go, potential natural replacement. However, I think if Kyle Walker-Peters leaves, I would expect whoever comes in potentially to look for a like-for-like replacement.
Yeah, so the one thing I will say as well is I have said that based on recent performances, I actually categorically would like to keep hold of Leslie Ugochukwu. I think if we don't get him as a loan deal, we're not going to permanently sign him. Chelsea bought him for £23 million or euros. 23 million euros.
23.1 million pound.
Pounds. Okay, 23 million pounds. I was right the first time round. Chelsea do this, right? They buy a ton of young players for mediocre fees. They put them out on loan to increase their value. They want to sell them for more money. Yeah, it's their money model. That's what they do. So there's no way they're letting him go for any less than 25, 26. Probably looking at more than like wanting 30 for him. Is Leslie Ugochukwu going to break into the Chelsea first team? No. Let's be honest. Let's be real. He's not. Is he a Premier League player? Probably. Yeah. Are we going to put £30 million on the table for a Leslie Ugochukwu when we've got the disastrous front line that we've got? No. It's just not going to happen, is it? It's not a thing. So I think that he may go. I will caveat that with, I'm kind of okay with it because Shay Charles. I think that he swaps that role. Shay Charles, Flynn Downs partnership next season.
If we have a solid base. Now let's be realistic here. And I'm going to mention players that we'll do a keep sell loan show in pre-season.
We will do a keep sell loan show, yeah.
Along with other shows that we've got planned. But if you look at the spine of the team, you're probably going to guarantee, this kind of goes into another point that I've mentioned in the next section. Gavin Bazunu come back from Standard Liège.
Yeah, because he's injured.
He's got a knee injury. Now, Standard Liège fans weren't overly happy with him. A lot of Saints fans weren't overly happy with him. He's very good shot stopper. Not the best player playing with the ball at his feet, but, you know, if you would assume that he would naturally be our first choice goalkeeper next year. You then look at a back four of, and I'm just speaking aloud here because obviously certain situations might change.
With what we currently have available to us.
You're then looking at a back four of James Bree, and then you've got Nathan Wood, Ronnie Edwards, Jack Stevens. You've then got Ryan Manning, potentially Wellington at left back. If you then stick Flynn Downs and Shay Charles in front of those two, you've got to go something to beat that. And that's a team. That's stupid. The thing is that's a team that potentially conceded. You know, we conceded 63 goals in the Championship when we were there last time, but if you've got someone who can set up a defensive team defensively, especially with Flynn Down and Shay Charles, not many teams are going to be able to match that.
If you look at Nathan Wood, Jack Stevens and Ronnie Edwards, and then you look at Shay Charles, Flynn Downs in front of them as your nucleus,
yes,
you've got... I'm trying to look at positives here, but I genuinely believe that sounds like a positive. I think that we need to solve the goalkeeper problem. I'm not confident with Gavin Bazunu or McCarthy in the sticks, even in front of those. Agreed. But you get away with it a little more if you've got a solid nucleus sat in front of that goalkeeper protecting him. So Rambo is, I think, an incredible goalkeeper. The reason why he's conceded so many this season is because his back line has just let him down. Mm-hmm. If you allow a team to have 26 chances, then at some point some of them are going to go in the back of the net. I think if you look at that nucleus, Flynn Downs and Shay Charles sat in front of Wood, Stevens, and I'm going off Stevens' last few performances. I'm not going off Stevens for earlier in the season. If you look at his last few performances, I think his level has been higher. I think it has. I think he's been playing a better game.
Yeah.
It's almost like the pressure's come off him a little bit, and he's starting to play well again. And he's looked passionate and like he cares, which I'm glad because he's the captain ultimately. But I think you put Edwards, Wood, Stevens, Shea Charles, Flynn Downs. I think that's a strong nucleus. I think that every other position around that, Matty Fernandes I'd like to keep. Dibbling, not fussed about at the moment, but could have an incredible future. Everybody else around those positions, I'd be okay with seeing them change. I've rated Manning at times this season. Don't give a shit if he disappears. Don't care. Right? Beef is, he looked all right at Ipswich. Ipswich have also been relegated, so largely irrelevant really because, right back, I think James Bree had done a decent job of playing right centre back as a sweeper on some of Europe's systems, and I think he'd looked impressive at times, clearing up a mess on occasion, but I don't know if he plays an attacking right back position and Yugi Sugawara can go back to where he came from because he's been awful.
If Danny Roll comes in, he's absolutely fallen in love with Jan Valery this year, and obviously he was at the football club before. So yeah, it all depends on the manager that comes in, who he likes, and who he might have. A manager might come in and go, right, I know that. Don't care if they've got who plays right back or goalkeeper. I've got someone I want to put.
I think that what we need realistically is we need to clear out of our oversubscription to midfielders and central and defenders in general, and get. I think we sell Taylor Harwood-Bellis. I do. I think we sell Jan Bednarak, and we thank him for being incredible for the club because he has. I think we let Kyle Walker-Peters go on his free. We should have made sure we don't let him go on a free, but I don't think I'm going to complain about a guy who did come down with us before and help us go back up again. Yeah. I think he's conducted himself very, very well. What I do think we need to do, whoever's in charge of the club, is we need to seriously look at our front line because it is woeful. And I saw someone in chat say earlier that if the Loch Ness Stewart can stay fit and I say Loch Ness because he's seen as often as the Loch Ness Monster's seen, if he can stay fit next season, he'll be banging goals in. I've seen no evidence of that. No evidence of it.
I have. I saw him when he played before.
Very
comfortable goal scorer in the Championship. Very comfortable goal scorer.
I just think that we need more than a Ross Stewart to actually be dangerous.
I'm not a betting man, but I would put a bet on something if it wasn't for the fact that we'd have to determine his fitness. If he's fit,
let's see this bet. All right, I'm a betting man. Let's see this bet.
I'm dead. I'm not a betting man.
Yeah, go on. Let's see this bet.
If Ross Stewart plays 40 plus games in the Championship next season, he will score 15 plus goals.
What's the bet? That he'll play 40 plus games, or that he'll score 15 plus goals?
That he'll score 15 goals.
Okay,
if
what's the bet?
If he plays 40
what's the bet then?
I don't know. I'm not a betting man. I just told you that. Let chat decide.
Dangerous.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, cool. So we've spoken about Bozzino coming back from Standard Liège. Now, interestingly, Liège fans didn't rate him and aren't bothered about him leaving. I think we need to seriously think about whether we do or don't go with.
He had some very poor games. He also had some worldies. So I think it's that consistency piece, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we've got some other stuff that's been going on in and around the Premier League and other leagues, which is interesting. We're starting to see the shape of the Championship next season.
Yes.
So Ipswich yesterday were relegated.
Finally, yes.
So let's face it, we know. We have confirmed that all three promoted teams have been relegated. Did Leicester go up top last season?
Leicester won the league last year, yep.
So they haven't quite gone down in the order they went up?
No, so it's the first time since the Premier League has formed that for 2 seasons in a row, all the teams that have gone up have gone down. But I'll talk about Leicester in the Leicester preview.
Yeah. Plymouth relegated?
Yeah, sure. Well, they're not officially relegated.
They're as good as relegated.
There's 12 goals in it, but they also have Leeds at home park for their last game of the season. So,
and Cardiff as good as relegated? Or actually relegated?
Already down.
They're actually relegated now.
Yeah.
Leeds are obviously promoted. We've seen their...
Leeds were promoted first.
Yeah, we've seen their... Was it? No, it wasn't Leeds, was it? It was Burnley where they had the pitch invasion and they had some issues around...
Yeah, Chris Wilder was having a whinge, but
Chris Wilder did Chris Wilder things.
Chris Wilder did Chris Wilder things.
Chris Wilder's a bit of a
He's
knob.
Just bitter because,
Yeah.
he plays ball by the wayside.
So we are starting to see the shape of the Championship. Wrexham have got promoted again.
So yeah, first team in history to do back-to-back promotions at the top 5 tiers.
It's amazing what you can do if you believe and you really care and you've got loads of money.
So interestingly enough, I'm not sure if it correlates, but interestingly enough, my wife was asking about when the fixtures come out and if I ever want to go away to the Wrexham area.
Yeah?
Yeah. She also asked me if Ryan Reynolds goes to every game, so I told her that, I'd keep an eye on it.
Just say, yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Then you get an excuse to go.
I'll go to Ryan Reynolds, I'll take him.
Yeah?
Yeah, instead of her, yeah. Yeah, look, the Championship, I think that...
It does make me laugh. Like, congratulations to Wrexham, fair play. And I'm a bit of a Ryan Reynolds fan. I think he's all right, mostly because Deadpool. But let's not believe that they've done something incredible. They've spent a lot of money. It's like Newcastle when they won the cup and they went, finally, Newcastle won a... It's great what that Saudi money does, isn't it?
But they're not the only ones, have they?
No, of course they're
Birmingham
not.
have got some big backing behind them. So we're obviously going to be... Well, we're not sure exactly sure position we're going to be in. Leicester, again, I'll talk about them in a bit. Ipswich, is Kieran McKenna going to be in charge?
Do you think a club like Wrexham are in for a shock in the Championship compared to League One?
The problem is... And I've seen the documentaries that they've done. They have they do their planning, and Phil Parkinson has obviously taken much to Championship. He's not really managed at Championship level, and I think that they were. I think the biggest shock for them this year is they didn't walk League One.
Well, let's talk about the Championship a little bit because I think my personal opinion is, and I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section after the show. I think that the Championship now has become the most exciting league in English football by quite some distance as well.
As a rule of thumb, yes, I will say to people that if you get the chance, go and see the National League South promotion party yesterday.
But I think if we're talking about a balance between the standard of football, which, let's be fair, the Championship standard of football isn't quite the Premier League standard of football. We're seeing this with the teams getting promoted, going back down again. But the standard is still high, good and exciting and fast. And then the fact that we are still looking at who might be relegated and promoted, etc., because we've obviously got the playoffs to happen. I honestly believe that, and we've seen teams moving 2 or 3 places during results yesterday. I still honestly believe the Championship is now the because you can be below halfway through the table, still have a chance of making playoffs. I think it's the most exciting league in English football.
It is
by far.
Overall, it is, and you know you've got it. You've said it. Obviously, it's a bit of a shame, really, because they're going into the last game of the season and automatic promotion is done, and there's still a relegation place. But that relegation place can be filled by 1 of 5 teams. The playoffs. I mean, at the moment, Coventry were well within the playoffs, and now Millwall have shot up there, and Middlesbrough are still within a chance.
It's great, isn't it?
It's just
exciting.
The playoffs. I mean, I've said it. You know, I love the playoffs. I watch every minute of the playoffs. They are absolutely sensational, and for me, it keeps those leagues alive a little bit longer. And like I said, I know I referenced the conference, National League South. If anyone gets a chance, go and check out what happened on the last day there, because that is crazy. Because there was 5 teams fighting for the title on the last day, and in the end, it was won by goal difference. But the Championship, at the level that it is, to be as competitive as it is now, is just superb. So I think the Championship will be slightly weaker next year for not having Leeds in it. But I think with Wrexham coming up, with Birmingham coming up, with us going down, Leicester, Ipswich to a point, it could be fairly strong next year.
Leicester have also lost their main man now. Jamie Vardy is leaving Leicester at the end of the season.
Not only, so I'll go on to this now. I was going to wait, which is why I kept on saying we'll talk about it in the Leicester preview. Not only have Leicester losing Jamie Vardy, I've seen it on a fair few pods out there. Leicester are in a much worse state behind the scenes than we are. Much worse state behind the scenes than we are.
In what sense?
So when their owner died, and I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because he obviously had the helicopter crash outside
Dave.
King Power.
Dave.
We'll call him Dave.
Yeah.
Very sad news, and obviously, you know, we don't ever want to see that. But
yeah, rip Dave.
They put someone in. This is going to sound familiar to you. They put someone in charge who wasn't a football man. In charge of the footballing side of things.
Who would do that?
Financially, they're in a worse position than we are.
Yep.
Jamie Vardy leaving is one of their big. They have some serious problems behind the scenes in that football club. They've got no assets to sell in that team. They've not got a Tyler Diblin or a Matty Fernandes or an Aaron Ramsdale. There is no assets in that team for people to look at and go, I'll give you 30-40 million pound for him. They have nothing, and the squad is on its arse.
Oh, really?
On its arse. They are in. Leicester fans are seriously concerned that they will be the team that do the Luton next year because they've got nothing to go for.
I'm not that sad. Only because I've seen some real shithousery from Leicester fans on social media still living off former glories of winning the Premier League that one time.
They also won the FA Cup a few years back. But
yeah, man. Okay. Interesting.
They also, and I've just, sorry, Cameron's just popped up with this, and I've just seen it. They are also in line potentially for a point deduction next season. So
are they?
Everyone laugh at Leicester.
Well, we'll see, because they've broken FFP repeatedly, right?
In the Championship.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Right. Well, you know, we are playing Leicester next week on Saturday.
Yes.
Do you think we get any points? It's a rubber, again, with the exception of we have got to beat Derby's points record.
All I'll say, Leicester haven't scored in 9 home games. They've lost all of those 9 home games. They also got battered by Wolves at the weekend, yesterday. And we go searching for a point. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah, Leicester score 4.
They'll put 3 past us, yeah.
So that's your prediction, Leicester win? I'm going to go for a draw.
I would. Do you know what? The way Simon Rush has set us up, the way they play, it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being a bit of a bore draw. I think we'll score. I do think we'll score.
1-1 draw.
My only thing that concerns me is just but then again, Leicester will be similar. It's being dabbed next week. Excuse my French. It's being now dabbed El Shitio.
It is.
I don't think. I think we're better on the road than we are at St Mary's. And that's obviously, well, we've had 6 points away from home this year and 5 points at home. So,
fair.
I just think that the pressure will probably be off. We'll have to see what happens. I don't think it's going to it's not going to get much media coverage. Do I think we can get something? Yes. Do I think we will? Nothing will surprise me with this team.
Okay. Now, obviously, Championship next season, I'm actually quite looking forward to it. Not less because we've just had the most dreadful season in existence, but also because I do think it's the most exciting league. Let's talk about the Premier League just very, very briefly. Obviously, yesterday it was confirmed that Ipswich got relegated, so Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton all down. All the teams that came back up, as you've already alluded to. Today it was confirmed that Leicester have won the league.
Liverpool
have won the league, correct. And we saw some of their promotion party at Anfield, who battered Tottenham, by the way, 5-1.
Yeah.
With a goal disallowed, I think, as well. So it could have been 6-1. They had an offside goal disallowed that Mo Salah put in.
Oh, okay, I see that.
I'm not sad to be seeing the back of the Premier League. It's going to sound like Salty Saints fan complains because his team's been terrible. I'm not sad to see the back of the Premier League because the season's been terrible for us. But I'm also not sad to see the back of the Premier League because I actually don't think it has been exciting at all. And I mean that not from just a Saints fan's perspective. Now, before Liverpool fans get on at me, worthy winners of the league.
Yeah, congratulations to them.
The Premier League being boring is not their fault. The Premier League being boring this season is because of the lack of competition they faced. Ultimately.
There's no other way to put it. No, you're completely right.
So congratulations, Liverpool. Genuinely worthy winners of this season. But my God, it's been a dull season. And we're getting to a point where the media is trying to hype fighting for a Champions League or UEFA spot. Because that's the only thing going on.
There's 4 games left. I was really rooting for Notts Forest to beat City in the Cup semi-finals today because then they wouldn't have won that. There's 4 games left. Relegation's done. Championship's done. 2 of the, I mean, it's not really, but some of the Champions League places already decided.
But you don't think, like, I remember years ago, you were looking at people surviving relegation on the final day. Saints did it with Matt Letizia in the side.
About 4 seasons we did that.
Saving themselves from relegation on the final day of the season. We have 4 games to go, and all 3 teams that are going to go down are now secured as going down. We could literally stop the season for them now and go, don't worry about playing the rest. Surely, do you think that the Premier League are actually looking at this concerned? Because I heard a shocking fact. Do you know what happens when a team gets promoted who's on parachute payments?
I did see this, but I can't remember exactly what it was. You're going to remind me, though.
So the parachute payments get paused, and the money saved from paying that team parachute payments, where do you think it goes?
The Premier League team.
It gets split between the Premier League teams. Mm-hmm. Do you not think that money should be split between the Championship teams?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Of course it should.
So the rich clubs get richer again. The whole structure is broken. FFP, I don't think helps.
No.
Because you have to come up and take a huge gamble on spending loads of money that might not pay off and you end up being really screwed by the system, or you don't spend and you try and be conservative and you just get battered. Do you think that the Premier League is looking at this and is concerned about the way... Because we've said we think the Championship is the most competitive. There's some people in chat that have agreed that the Championship is the most exciting, most competitive league. That's not just us. That's going to be a relatively common opinion, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think the Premier League's concerned? Or do you think they're like, we're all getting richer, who cares?
I think, firstly, they will only care about the money. I think that when you look at the Premier League this year, there's been a bit of a balance in power. You look at where United and Spurs are, and the race for, the leagues that have almost been created between sort of like 10th and 3rd has been quite exciting. Forest have been up there. Brighton are up there. Bournemouth have been doing fairly well. Fulham have had a fairly solid season. You know, they usually think to yourself, we matched them yesterday. They're on 54 points now. We're on 11. So I think that they will have to address. So if you look at the teams that are going up, Leeds are going up, Burnley are going up, and then it's going to be one of Sheffield United or Sunderland or another two.
That's how the playoffs work, actually.
They need at least one of those teams to stay in the division next year. They need to. And I think that when you look at the teams that have gone down, and again, we'll cover this in the show in pre-season, Ipswich went up, they invested £150 million. They really tried. They gave it a good go. They lost it in games that they shouldn't have done. So they're on 21 points, so they're sort of 15 points off it. But then... Their season's been more respectable than ours. But let's be honest, we went up to watch them when we were away there, and we got a win. They did look terrible. But this is the point being is they've given it a bit more of a go, whereas Leicester and Southampton have made shocking recruitment decisions, shocking decisions all the way through the season and have been absolutely dreadful. I think that if it gets to a point next year, and it will be, because let's be honest, Burnley are going to finish 19th. Whoever goes up in the playoffs are going to be 20th, and Leeds will probably finish 18th. And if that happens, then they've got a big problem. The only thing that I think could potentially go in Leeds' favour is Ellen Road.
Yeah.
And I've been to Ellen
Bit
Road
of a fortress, isn't
many
it?
occasions, and it is loud.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go.
And just so very quickly, it will depend on what happens with Bournemouth, with Areola, and with those teams around there. Will people asset strip Notts Forest? Will people asset strip Bournemouth? Will people asset strip
Well, we
Brentford,
looked at some. I was watching the Bournemouth Man United game earlier today, and you said I feel sorry for Bournemouth because they're probably going to get stripped next season. Let's be honest, they probably will get stripped next season. Your Cliverts and your Semenyos are probably not staying at Bournemouth. They're not, are they?
You know, they're going to lose.
Isak's probably
going to lose Kirkers. They're going to lose Hoyson. They're going to lose a lot of players.
Surely Isak is probably not staying at Newcastle, is he? Let's be honest.
You'd like to. You'd assume so.
But who knows? You never know. But I just loyalty is not a thing that really exists anymore.
Oh, of course it doesn't.
Anyway, there you go. That's the show for today. Fulham, a bit of a disaster. Started strong, an impressive first half, a promising first half, if anything, but fall apart as usual. We've talked about next season a little bit. We'll be doing a lot of this, obviously, because the Championship is looming, and I'd like to think it's not going to be too long before Saints at the end of the season start looking at making appointments and making decisions. I'm hoping we move pretty quickly and we give a new manager plenty of time to get pre-season in and shape the squad and team the way that he'd like to. But we'll also see the impact of Johannes Spores this season, and hopefully he does some good, because we definitely had a void left when Jason Wilcox left.
Oh,
let's be honest, we had a huge void there, right? And actually, if you watch that Russell Martin interview, he spoke about how him and Jason Wilcox's vision and views were aligned. Obviously, then Jason Wilcox left, which probably wouldn't have helped Russell's situation. Anyway, that's it. As for the normal show, that's us done, right? Leicester next week. You're saying ball draw?
I'm hoping ball draw.
But you're saying
Loss.
You reckon?
Always, yeah.
I think a 1-1 draw is what I think next season. I think next what we'll do next week is we'll go ahead 1-0 and we'll be like, banging 1-0 at Leicester. They can't score at home. Guess what? Bang, goal, done. 1-0. That's what I'll take the point though, I'll be honest with you. So let us know what you think in the comment section below before Saturday, what your prediction is for next week's game against Leicester. As we said at the start of the show, thank you, Matty Jones, for becoming a member of our academy, and thank you, Mr. The Buckshot, for gifting 10 of the finest Saints Network memberships as well. If you do have your membership for 3 months come end of August, you will be in with a chance of winning one of the new home shirts, probably still made by Puma. I'm not sure how long that contract's on, or whether it was Premier League specific. Anyway, you'll probably be with a chance of winning one of the new home shirts. I will be drawing them at random. Thank you, Christopher Sanford, for also gifting 5 of the finest Saints Network members, meaning we get 60 new members today. You're wonderful. Ian Clark, thank you for the $14. Do you think it might have been a case of just giving the players a run out, building towards next season and playing Wrexham?
What was in the game yesterday?
I think so.
I'm going to assume. I just think that it's the. Rusk is saying that he's not necessarily convinced he's not worried by the 11-point target. I think, although he's not, I think he's just trying to build some momentum and bring some pride in against his name. Because let's be honest, Danny Röhl might come in at the end of the season, or Eric Ramsey, or me, who even knows, and go, do you know what? I don't want him on the coaching staff, and he's going to be looking for a new job.
Yeah, that's fair. I would actually definitely like to see Lallana on the coaching staff.
Oh,
I'll be honest.
100%.
I think I agree with you. I think he's just trying to bring some morale up, bring some attitude up, work them, build them into a system, try and build some kind of core that the next boss can sort of work with, maybe. So I don't think it's about just giving them a run out. I think it's about trying to put some kind of confidence back in them and build some kind of system. Because let's face it, the system's been absolutely decimated over the course of the season with what Martin did and then what Russ came in and did. And I think Juric came in and did. I now think we're starting to see a bit of consistency. And I think that honestly, I think three months ago, Fulham battered us 5-1. So I think I do think it is an improvement. We are still doing Saints things. And then thank you, Matt McManus, at the end there. Centre-back partnership of Ronnie Andwood, and then 2 little love heart face emojis. It does sound all right, doesn't it? Although I don't think Stevens is going anywhere.
I don't think Stevens is going anywhere. Ronnie Wood, did it then. Christ, I did it. Nathan Wood, when he came in at the time when we were really down on our luck, looked really good. And he looked like a good prospect. The problem is, obviously, with all of it, and I'll say the same again, is the Championship is just a very, very unforgiving league.
Yeah.
So whoever comes in, like you said, needs to get in early, needs to decide who they want, why they want, where they want, and get them settled, because what we don't want to do is go into the first game of the Champions next season. There's not been this year, but there's not going to be an easy game next year.
No, we also don't want to be in the Championship first few games of the season still with players in the shop window, if we can help it.
But we did that last time. So we had James Ward-Prowse, we had Nathan Teller and stuff still playing for the team, and it got to the point where when Prowsey left, we had that void for a few games where Flynn Downs was then trying to come into the team.
Exactly. We need to avoid doing that again.
Yeah, we had the 4-game losing streak. And it just needs to be, do you know what? Saints fan, they're going to have a go at me. If we finish 8th next year, but we've won more than we've lost, and we've had a bit of pride.
So Cam says, I'm a future manager after we've gone up and come back down. That's interesting, because actually, if you think about it, we are better off not going up next year and going up the year after than we are going up next year, coming back down again. Do you know why? Parachute payments.
It'll all depend. Look,
if we go up next year, we come back, our parachute payments pause again.
Yeah.
If we come back down the year after, we have 1 year of parachute payments left. When that runs out, if we don't go up again, we're done on parachute payments. If, however, we stay down next year in the Championship, we have a 2nd year of parachute payments, we then go back up. If we then come straight back down, do you know what starts all over again? Parachute payments. So financially, it's better.
Lallana's an interesting one. Obviously, everyone wants those players to do well. Everyone wants to do it. Lallana's he's an assistant manager in terms of the role that he's playing right now. We'll see what role he does next year. He may end up being a player who gets touted for a local job. I mean, Tottenham might be in the National League South next year. They've got a playoff on Wednesday. They're at home against Dorchester Town. If anyone's going, I might do. So we're looking at potentially he might get snapped up by the clubs. We don't know what the new manager who comes in is going to want. And that's just got to keep stressing that. It depends on who comes in.
Yeah.
Because certain managers might come in and go, I want this. I don't want those people involved in the football club.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next show, team, is next Sunday at 8 p.m. I will have seen and watched the Leicester game. I am not going to be present. Our friend Matt and Chat's going. Ash is also not going to the Leicester game. So we'll be talking about the result of Leicester next Sunday at 8 o'clock. And I am hoping, in fact, that we are recording some kind of points. I don't care what.
We can just all sit live on stream and just tweet Robbie Savage with like that.
Yeah. And Vardy.
Who cares about him?
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget, you can become a member of the channel and get yourself in with a chance of winning a new home shirt for next season if you are a member for 3 consecutive months. I appreciate all of you people that have gifted memberships, or we appreciate all of you people that have gifted memberships tonight, like Mr. Yesson, who's just come and gifting a single Saints Network membership. Thank you so much for gifting. You people are incredible. Trying to grow our own little red army here in our little corner of the Saints internet webs. That's the thing we're trying to do. So thank you for the gifted. Thank you for the 2 super chats as well. You people are incredible. It does support the show. We are very grateful for you people supporting the show. It also supports just you watching and hitting that like button for us. Or if you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, it also supports the show. You are wonderful human beings. We are currently planning content to do throughout the summer to try and keep the content going, even in the off-season period. I'm hoping we're going to have a very exciting transfer window and pre-season, but we'll see. Who knows? We don't know. We're hoping.
Who knows anyway?
Yeah, we appreciate it. If you haven't, before you leave, if you could smash that like button for us, it'd be very much appreciated. We'll be posting on Twitter throughout the week, especially about the upcoming game and stuff like that as usual. So you can follow the Twitter feed in the description below. You can also join the Discord if you are a member of the channel. In fact, you can join the Discord if you're not a member of the channel. If you check out the link in the description below, or hit !Discord in live chat right now, it will give you a link to the Discord server where we talk football. It's getting slightly busier. Good. I'm a fan.
Busier, yeah.
If you've got any opinions on anything that we said on tonight's show, please feel free to stick them in the comment section below. We reply to every single comment on the show. So thank you so much for everybody who has been commenting. You're all amazing. And I think that's everything for tonight, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to excitedly say
Excitedly
to the chat before we go, Ash?
Up the Saints.
Up the Saints. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.